You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Are you ready to learn the 3 secrets to launching a successful podcast? Hi, I'm Bill, a recent client of the Podcast Mogul. If you've been thinking about starting a podcast but aren't sure where to begin, he's got you covered. He is hosting a free webinar where he will share the 3 secrets that can help you launch, grow, and monetize your podcast without any fancy equipment or technical headaches. Click the link in the show notes to save your spot now and let him help get your podcast off the ground.
Hey entrepreneurs, it's your Podcast Mogul Phil Better here. I am excited for this episode as I know you are. Before we jump into this episode, I'm going to ask you if you are also a podcaster and you're looking to grow your podcast or monetize your podcast, make sure you stay till the end of the episode. I have a special deal for you, or a special offer, if you will. But ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's jump into the episode.
Welcome to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Join the Podcast Mogul Phil Better as he interviews successful entrepreneurs that make their living in the digital world. Now, let's join your host, Phil Better, and his special guest today on Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. I am, of course, your host with the most, Phil Better, the Podcast Mogul, and I'm very, very happy to introduce our guest today. They are the powerhouse behind the Art of Sucre, which was started in 2016 because a hole in the market for a chic twist on a nostalgic treat, if I can speak properly, cotton candy, was discovered by our guests. They decided to take the money from their wedding gifts, from all their guests, and purchase their first cotton candy machine and began spinning the threads of golden goodness at events around the Northeast Ohio. And then tragedy struck in 2020. As we know, the pandemic showed up and forced Art of Sucre to transition into the CPG, which for those who don't know, and I didn't know before recording this, means consumer packaged goods brand that you see today. And during this pivot, our guest took to TikTok to grow her following to a whopping 1.3 million followers, and that allowed her to partner with brands like American Girl, 818 Tequila, because who doesn't like tequila and cotton candy, and of course the fabulous Barbie. While also she grew her team from a solo one-woman shop to now bustling 20 employees. Please welcome our guest, Emily Harpel. Emily, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Phil. I'm excited to chat with you today.
Yes, thank you. I'm excited. All that one. I just want to jump into it because after a glowing review like that, I want to hear from your own words who you are and how did you get started?
Yeah, it's funny to look back on it because so much has changed in the past 3 years, but to take you way back to the beginning in 2016, I was planning my wedding while just graduating from university. So I got married crazy young. My husband and I have been together since high school, and my whole plan was actually to go on and get my master's degree in clinical mental health counseling. And through a really weird series of events, essentially, they kind of lost my application and then they filled the cohort and then they were going to hold my application and then they rejected it. A weird series of events happened that I found myself out of college with a degree in psychology, which you can do a lot with, and planning a wedding. And was kind of like, oh, now what? I need to figure something out. And I spent a lot of time on Pinterest, as I feel like most people who are getting married do, and happened upon cotton candy as an option for a wedding favor. But it was kind of like scary cotton candy. Does that make sense? Like it had a clown on it with this like really ugly packaging, and there was no flavor associated with it. It was just like pink or blue. It's kind of a mystery. You don't really know what you're eating. And it was really at the height of kind of Instagram and this upgrade of all of these desserts. Like cake pops were becoming really popular, and the donut wall, I'm sure,
Oh God.
you know what I'm talking about, right? You remember
Yeah,
that?
yeah. I've never been on Pinterest for wedding trist, if you will, to steal the terms from TikTok. But I have seen like been sent things from those for like from friends saying, "Oh, isn't this cool for this wedding or that wedding?" So yes, I understand the trend.
This was the height of that. And
Oh God.
even like sugar cookies are like art at this point. Like you don't even want to eat it. And cotton candy wasn't being touched. And so for whatever reason, I don't know why that really like stuck with me. I think most people assume that I had this like childhood burning desire to just like really love cotton candy. And I wish that was true. I think it would make my story a little more interesting. But to be honest, it's not. And I just really saw a hole in the market. So I originally, the whole concept was to do events. So it was to take cotton candy and upgrade it to something that an adult would want to have at a wedding, because wedding was on the brain. So a champagne flavored, an orange bourbon cotton candy, something that you've never seen, never heard of. And it was really this interactive element that you could have at any event. And so that's what I did. I got married. There was no cotton candy at the wedding, another common misconception. But I did have my husband, Drew, who's actually 2 years younger than I am, cornered for 20 hours in the car on the way back from our honeymoon. And I was like, now's my chance. He's trapped. How do we feel about starting a cotton candy company? And shockingly, he was like, absolutely. I thought he was going to be like, girl, go get a real job. Like, what are you thinking? Because that would have been my exact response to him. And he thankfully was like, actually, I think it's a great idea. You should do this. And so we came up with the name for the business in that car ride, again, where I had him trapped, and got the LLC secured, Instagram handles, everything. And I essentially had started this business without ever once touching a cotton candy machine, which I'm aware is like a little psychotic and very naive. But ultimately, I'm very thankful that that was the way that I did it, because it forced me to then learn how to do all this.
So one, I think trapping your husband, I love that part of the story, because I could just see kind of like the old school mentality of like the husband's like, oh God, not again. But then you flipped it on us and say he was like, oh really? I like this. Obviously, he's a guy. Candy is probably his favorite thing. And he's like, I'm going to have access to candy at all time. I think that's what he was thinking about this business. That's it. That's where his thinking stopped.
Yeah. It was more food than it was.
Yeah, it was. He was probably hungry. 20 hours in a car ride. He's going to be hungry. I love that you came up with brought it from childhood to adult. I think that's why we're seeing this trend from like with sugar cookies and all this, because it's something from childhood that we are now adults and we're like, why isn't this invented? So we're just bringing it through. What was the process like launching this business? Because it's unlike any other business out there. So like, yeah, obviously the LLC, that's normal and all this, but like, how did you deal with did you have to deal with the food board or anything like that?
Oh, yeah. So funny you ask. Yeah, I knew nothing, to be clear. Like, I, again, had just graduated from university with nothing to do with food. I never even worked like fast food. I worked retail and things like that through college, but nothing in the food space. So I had no idea what I was doing whatsoever. I didn't have anybody that I could even really like reference, because I really came up with the idea myself. So it wasn't like I could, had someone to kind of emulate their business model, even like you said, like a food license or pricing model. I had no idea how I was going to do it. And you couldn't just Google, like, how much do you charge for cotton candy cart service? That wasn't a thing. So I very, very much moved at my own pace and felt like I would take small steps in the right direction in my comfort zone, because all of it was out of my comfort zone, if I'm being honest. So I spent a lot of time on Google. Like, that sounds like a really silly answer, but it's the truth. Like, even to this day, I Google everything. And then a lot of it was just done through trial and error, which even to this day is still the answer. Sometimes you have to just do trial and error. And then I also just asked a lot of questions to people that I probably like shouldn't have been asking questions to. I know that my first health inspector was like, this girl should not run a business. Like, she doesn't know what she's doing. But I'm like, that's what you're here for. And I'm going to take advantage of that.
No, I love that little piece you added at the end of asking people all the questions because you didn't know, obviously. And what's great is you were still in the academic type mentality. You knew you didn't know anything. You knew you had to ask questions and you had to learn. And you went to the biggest university in the world, Google, followed by their teaching assistant, YouTube. If I didn't have Google and YouTube, I would still probably be working at a bank and hating my life every day. But you did at least have, business assets and skills from your time in real estate, in retail. You think I would learn how to speak properly and know my words 200 plus episodes later, Phil. Come on, get your game in. But you did have those, at least some business skills from doing retail. Did you see a lot of transferable skills over? Because obviously retail and cotton candy, not too similar, but other than the sales part, but like, were there skills that you were able to transfer over?
Definitely. I think from a customer service standpoint, that's probably where I feel like I had the leg up the most, of knowing how to communicate and how to explain things to people. And to even sometimes, when you're doing events, you're dealing with thousands of people a weekend, depending on how many events you're doing, the type of events. Like, if there's somebody that's giving you kind of a hard time, how do you manage that? Or how do you sell yourself in a way? And I always say that I'm really not a salesperson. I'm really bad at that. And I have people on my team that are so much better than I am. But there is some of that I absolutely did learn at my time working in retail, because you have to be to some extent. So definitely transferable. And I feel the way about the psychology background for sure too. I feel like that's come in handy with growing a team, dealing, with a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds and different styles and personalities and things like that. So even though my background is not in traditional business, I do feel like the skills that I learned early on help me even to this day.
And I love that you brought up the psychology background, because you're able, with your knowledge, you have an ability that most bosses don't, to create the culture that is actually a winning culture, because you're able to spot the psychological, red flags that most people don't, to nip it. I love that. With your psychological background, your degree, how was it like hiring your first person? Because I know you grew your team from zero, your one-man show doing all the work, to 20 people. Like, how was that? How did you use that? Or what was it like hiring your first person?
Yeah, so that was wild because it was COVID. So before obviously the pandemic happened, I had built up the event side of the business, that I was still really my only employee, but I would have a small group of friends that if we had events that were double stacked, could kind of just help pick up and do an event for me. So they were the first people that I brought in, of like, hey, I'm starting this business that we hand spin everything. So it's important to note that even today, like, I own our manufacturing. I'm sitting in our manufacturing facility right now. They're spinning the cotton candy like 2 walls over from me. So that's a whole other piece of this business, that we don't have a co-packer. So I had a leg up from the standpoint of, I had already known how to produce the product just because of doing the event side of things. So it wasn't like starting completely from scratch, but building a team was. So it started out with just a lot of friends that helped me originally, and then it kind of grew, and our social media following grew at the same time, which means that a lot of people were reaching out to me saying, I want to work for you. I want to work for you. So in the beginning, it was like people, and it's honestly still that way now. If you want my honest opinion, I've never had to like really put out an ad to hire people. They just come to us from what they see on social media and want to be a part of it. But it does, the kind of the psychology background, circling back to your question, it does allow me to help navigate and kind of ask the right questions and to watch people to see if they're going to be a good fit. And my first full-time hire, her name is Emma. She's still here today. She's my right hand. She's our brand director. And I knew immediately upon hiring her part-time that she was going to be my first full-time hire. We hit it off perfectly. We literally sat knee to knee. We shared a desk for almost a year. Like we sat in the same spot, like literally, like it's a miracle that we still even like each other at this point. And as a matter of fact, when we moved into our new space now, which is so much bigger, we have our own private offices. Like you will still find Emma and I working pretty much from the same office all the time because we just got so used to working in sync with each other. But once I kind of was able to bite the bullet and bring her on full time, it got so much easier to know the next fit and the next puzzle piece. And it really does come together when you find the right people.
I love that. And I love that story because that is the definition of a ride or die employee. If you're stuck nose to nose pretty much with your boss day in and day out,
yes,
like either you're going to be with this company forever or it's like 6 months and I'm out.
Well, okay, what's really funny about this too, and like I don't tell people this a lot, but it feels like this is fitting. Emma and I have a matching tattoo, which I understand, like that's wild. Like that is not
pre-working together, right?
No. So we didn't even know each other. She is my employee for like 6 months. I mean, it's a cotton candy tattoo. It's the same place, everything. We got this huge opportunity to showcase in New York City at the Wine and Food Festival. And so I wanted to commemorate it by getting like, I've wanted a cotton candy tattoo for a while. And she's like, I'm getting one too. And I was like, do you understand what that means? Like, are you fully prepared to have a matching identical tattoo with your boss? And she's like, absolutely. And again, 3 years later, we still work really well together, but I'm not sure it always works out. To your point, it could have been like 6 months and done, and then a tattoo that she regrets for the rest of her life.
Yeah,
but so far, so good.
I love that's like, and the fact that you get people, you don't have to put an ad out. Obviously, you probably may have put out an ad, or you may have said, "Hey, we're looking for employees on your social media," but you're coming from fans, so you know they already love the brand, they love what you're doing. So like, it's I guess like for me, it's that loyalty. You know, you can, like when you work for a corporation, you don't know if the employees will be loyal to the corporation,
right?
Because they don't know it. But with you're building your social media. They're coming from fans. They're already loyal to the brand. Now they get to help their favorite brand build up and become bigger and have that like little, oh my God, that's why we need more psychologists in positions of powers. That's what I'm saying. Because they understand things on a different level. And not just keep them in the sales part because that's tricky and that's evil. I want to move a bit more because the pandemic shifted your business. Like you said, you went from going to events, spinning the cotton candy yourself to now you're selling it worldwide, but you're selling it worldwide. And you had to change pretty much everything. Like you pivoted, a massive pivot. Are you still doing events, or is that like that's been shuttered and you're just consumer goods now?
It's very rare that we do events. They're not open to just anybody, putting in a request now. We have a really great working relationship with the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Cleveland Browns that I've had forever. So they are about the only people that I will do an event for, just because I feel like they were like the first large entity to really believe in me, which gave my business a lot of credibility. So when they ask, I always say yes. But other than that, the event side of things has kind of been shut down. I do think one day we'll probably bring it back because it is such a great concept, but it takes a lot of time, energy, and manpower to pull something like that off. And we were getting a lot of event requests for things out of state. So that was really getting tricky to navigate of like, are you going to be able to pay our travel fees? Like there's a lot logistically that can go wrong with that, even just like health license and permits and all of that. So at the time being, we're just focusing on the consumer packaged goods side of things and the shipping.
I like that. And how did you come up with the concept of like creating the consumer good, creating an adult version of the kids classic of cotton candy?
Yeah. So what's so funny is that I always swore up and down that I would never package cotton candy. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And it's just so funny. That's what we do only now. But cotton candy, Yeah, who would have thought? Certainly not me, honestly. Never. Did not see this for myself at all. Cotton candy is really delicate, which sounds wild, but it's true. It's really temperamental from an environment standpoint. So actually right now it's raining outside, which means that our cotton candy machines are going to be running slower. So any type of rain, humidity, any outside element, even if obviously we're in the building, it's not raining in the building. It doesn't matter if it's in the air and you can feel it, it becomes a problem. And if the packaging isn't just perfect, cotton candy will absolutely disintegrate. So that was a really, really, really long process to figure out how to do that. And I now like to tease that I'm actually just like a packaging engineer, because I did figure out a lot of it through trial and error and on my own, but it took a lot. It took a lot of mistakes, and a lot of mistakes in public to get to that point. I have a design team that they were my first hire when I decided to pivot. And they're based in Denver, and their names are Molly and Jackie. I like give them the credit for everything, because they have literally held my hand in ways that most, graphic designers, web designers never would do. But they really came alongside of me to help figure out the packaging problem, find the right suppliers. They actually flew to Cleveland to learn how to spin the cotton candy so that they knew what they were designing for. How would the cotton candy fit into the packaging? What is our process behind the scenes, so that they could really get involved with the brand. But that jump took, like I said, about a year. And even then, our hero product is a glitter bomb. So it's a small fluff of cotton candy. You drop it in something clear and bubbly. Cotton candy dissolves. Edible glitter flows out, making your drink sparkle. And we launched with packaging that was not sustainable to the heat. And we did a drop of these. They sold out and they all melted. And I was in surgery. And so Emma had to handle this issue. And then we had to pull the product for 6 months while we figured out, at the most vital point in our business, while we figured out a new packaging solution. So this does not happen overnight. And there are, even to this day, we are still dealing with issues. My team is literally hole punching our glitter bomb sachets, because we just received a shipment of 50,000 that don't have tear notches in them. It was a mistake from the printer. So we're now hand hole punching them. So these mistakes don't go away. They just get bigger, and you learn to deal with them.
You have a dedicated team that wants to hole punch 50,000 sachets.
Yes.
They love you. They love the business, because wow.
Oh yeah.
I find it so fascinating, because I have yet to have someone who does anything like this on the show. And I have a billion questions, and I just can't pick one to jump out, because I want to get it into more. But how did you work with when the brand started coming? Obviously, you have the Cavaliers who work with you, and the Bears, right?
Browns. Yeah.
Browns. Sorry, it was B. I got the B. I'm not an NFL fan. I'm more NHL. So that's my my caveat here, to not know the Browns. But you worked with Barbie. How was it when bigger brands after the Cavs and that reached out? Because a sports team reaching out, because they have their celebrations and pre-gaming and stuff, so that's kind of interesting. But 818 Tequila, Barbie, what was that like?
So what's super interesting about where we are now is that it's a really equal split of big brands finding us because of our TikTok following, which I'm very thankful for. And that is really what has moved the brand forward. But also, I know I keep talking about her, but Emma's entire job is she sends pitch emails. So we will sit down multiple times a year. We have one big planning session in January that's just her and I. We give the rest of the team an entire week off. Her and I come in and we plan out everything for the entire year. And that includes collaborations that we want to see. And it's our list is massive. It's the biggest of big names that you can think of. And then her entire job is to go throughout the year and to stalk these people and who works there. And then we send these really well and artfully crafted pitch emails of the exact vision of what we want to see. So 818 Tequila is owned by Kendall Jenner. So the Kardashians are obviously involved, and we have wanted to work with that brand for a while. Emma found who they were, didn't get through to the top of the top. So she started working her way down. Finally was able to get a call with someone on their team, and we sent samples. We had a Zoom call. They loved the concept so much, but it wasn't just this like generic, like, hey, look at our product, it would be a cool fit. It was a very well painted picture of, here's how we see this activation. Here's what the packaging could look like. Here's our capabilities. Like, here's the flavor profiles we could do in this cocktail. So it's very well thought out, so we don't really leave a lot to the imagination. They can actually picture what it's going to be like. So it's really great when these big brands reach out and want to work to us too, but there's also a lot of work behind the scenes, and it's this feeling of I don't know, it's really rewarding to know that we have a cool product and that it works in all of these different capabilities and capacities, and to be able to say that as a really small bootstrapped brand based in Cleveland, Ohio, that we've had some pretty big names on our resume.
Look, like that is insane. Like the fact that you had everything planned out, like the planning session in January, brilliant. Obviously, as you know, it's paid dividends already.
Yeah.
But like already having everything, so like there's no reason for them to say no. Like you're saying, look, we've already thought of everything. Let's add your input to it so that we can make it even better, because we already know this is a hit. Let's make it take it to the next level. If you have any like notes, if you will, instead of trying to start from scratch, you're like, no, we already got that. We just need you to say yes. I think that's brilliant and a great way of going in about the collaborations. Now, we know Emily is getting a lot. It's Emily, right?
Emma.
No, you're Emily.
Yeah.
Emma.
Listen,
Sorry,
it's
Emma.
very confusing. It's do not apologize. We hear it all the time. She answers to Emily. I answer to Emma. Whatever. We answer it to both.
So Emma's been given all this high praise, and she's obviously well worth it. Does she do most of? Obviously, does she come up with the whole package to deliver to these prospected clients, or do you have a huge touch in it? And I say clients, I mean partners.
Potential collaborations. We do everything very much together, which again goes back to us sitting in the same office 95% of the time. It's very collaborative, and I would argue that the whole team is that way. So one of the things that's really important to me is that no matter what your role is in the company, that you know how to do the production side. So if you are a new employee here, it doesn't matter what your role is, even if you will never touch the production, you have to spend at least 2 weeks learning how, because ultimately that is what makes the company move. And if that falls apart, if that, loses what's most important in all of that, the rest of the company goes downhill. So we're all super collaborative. I even jump in the studio still, occasionally. As a matter of fact, we have so many big orders coming up that the next 3 weekends, like I'm here on Saturdays helping the team out, because it's that important that we all work together and we all understand kind of what the goal is. So there's really nobody here that's doing anything just them, and that includes me for sure.
I love that. It's a great way to run the business. It's freaking, I love it. I love that collaboration and knowing each part of the business allows everybody, like you said, when you get crunch time comes in, everybody can end up helping out, and they're not more sticking out and causing issues. They know what to do. I want to transition to learning so much about you, but I want to move over to actually teaching the audience something. Not that you haven't already, but for someone that is not able to trap their newly husband in a car for 20 hours after a honeymoon, but is looking to they didn't get into their college, they didn't get into that program, and they're looking to, hey, maybe I want to start this journey of being an entrepreneur. What kind of advice do you have for them?
Most people aren't going to understand that. And I think it depends on especially who's in your life. I was very, very lucky that my parents are both entrepreneurs, and so that was a huge leg up in the fact that I even knew that I had to secure an LLC. So that was a huge privilege. But if you aren't in that situation where your parents are going to look at you and be like, I know we just paid for this college degree and now you're going to go make cotton candy. Yay, like that, because that's wild. That was my situation, and it's probably not going to be most people's. So I would say that you have to be prepared to kind of be on an island of one for a little while. There is a chance that people aren't going to support you or understand the vision. And that was pretty much everybody else in my life, but my husband and my parents. A lot of friends were like, you were going to go to graduate school. What's wrong with you? Like, why would you be throwing this away? And people really didn't start to understand until about 2 years in. And now all of a sudden, 7 years in, that we have these big names behind us, it's like, oh my gosh, I always believed in her type of thing, which is a little funny to think about. But yeah, if you're in that position, this is the simplest advice, and it's going to sound a little patronizing, and I don't mean it in that way. You just have to start. That's literally the hardest part. The hardest part is just, if you have this idea and this concept, you just have to move one step forward at a time. And you know what? Maybe that means not even telling anybody about it. It is okay to keep some things close to the chest for a little bit while you're working it out. And then you can kind of have more of a firmer concept from there, or you can tell people, and if they're not into it, you have to be strong enough to say, that's okay, I see the vision.
Oh, I love that. That's such great pieces of advice, and it's true. It's very true. Like if you're by yourself, it is an island, because you're doing this all by yourself. If you don't have the capital, like bootstrapping something, it's all by yourself, wearing all the hats, and people don't understand, why would you want to do this something crazy when you can have the secure job or go to the school and all that? It's because the freedom. Because like you said, in 5 years, you want to be hands off. Right. Even though I don't think you will be, I think you'll still be jumping in on a Saturday, wrapping those machines to make sure the order goes through. I can see you doing that. Probably not every Saturday or every time there's a big order, but I can see you still keeping your hands, because I don't think Emma is going to be stepping away either.
No, not at this
point. You mentioned a book that you mentioned entrepreneurs should read. I believe it's Go All In by Ali. I believe that was it.
I think it's called How to Build a Goddamn Empire.
That's it. Sorry, not
Ali
I'll go in. Yes, yeah. That's it. Why is this book something you want entrepreneurs to read?
I feel like, especially nowadays, entrepreneurship is so glamorized. Like and I could be wrong about this, but years and years ago, entrepreneur wasn't even really a word that you would hear. Like now there's programs in high school that, like, actually some of my mentor for, about kids that want to be entrepreneurs. And it's this unique shift of people wanting to be entrepreneurs as opposed to people having a business idea and then becoming an entrepreneur, which is very different.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it can be a dangerous thing to just want to be an entrepreneur without the passion of whatever the idea or the business is, because it's hard. It is a lot of work. It is a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And it's a lot of things that no one else is going to understand the weight of what you carry unless they too are an entrepreneur, which can be challenging. And I think that this book specifically, Ali had a startup that she had a co-founder with, and they took on funding, and then they made an exit, and it's a great story, and it's all the things that we all want, right? But this story, or her book and her story and how she tells it, is so raw and real that I really think that it gives you a true inside look into what it's actually like to be a founder and to start your own business in a way that I have never seen in any other book or any other article or whatever it is. And it just really gives you good, real, raw advice in a way that is rare because it is so glamorized nowadays.
Ooh, I like that. Ooh, I'm definitely going to be jumping on Audible and getting the book with my credit, because that's a ringing endorsement if I've ever heard one. Emily, snap my finger. I have 10-year-old you right beside me. She's spunky. She's fun. She's whatever adjective you want to add in front of that makes you feel comfortable. What piece of advice are you giving your younger self?
To not be so pigeonholed in the traditional, really anything, but specifically if we're talking business career path, because 10-year-old Emily would not have ever imagined myself where I am now. This was not something, like I had said earlier, that I had dreamed about from a child, and now it's all of a sudden I'm fulfilling it. Not at all. I went through a lot of iterations of wanting to be a lawyer and an architect, and then a graphic designer, and then a psychologist, and all of these things, only to end up owning a cotton candy company. And that, I mean, it sounds fake. Like, it sounds like it's
Doesn't
not.
sound real.
It doesn't sound real at all. And I think I spent a lot of years and time stressing over that, to only end up in a place that I'm so much happier and so much more fulfilled than I would have been in anything else.
I love that. And that's a great piece of advice. Also, I want to know, would 10-year-old you be like ecstatic that you have a cotton candy company?
I definitely think so, for sure. I mean, I don't know what 10-year-old wouldn't be ecstatic about
True.
that. But I would probably have a lot of questions, I feel like, for future Emily as well.
Yeah, I still have questions, and I just met you. Emily, I'm going to jump off screen here. I want you to let my audience know where they can follow you, your TikTok, where they can purchase the store, whatever you want to tell my audience to follow, purchase, whatever it is. The floor is yours. So please go ahead.
We made it super easy for you. Everything is just at Art of Sucre, SUCRE. That's the website, is .com. All of our Instagram handles, TikTok, social media is all just at Art of Sucre.
That was easy. Also, we forgot to touch on the name, how I pronounce it with the French. You pronounce it as Sucre. So I definitely going to have you come back on the podcast, because we're going to have to touch on that. But we are, unfortunately, out of time, Emily. So I want to thank you again for coming on the show and giving me an amazing interview and a great time.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. I really appreciate it.
To my audience, make sure you check out the show notes down below, but it's pretty much Art of Sucre, or Sucre, however you would like to pronounce it, in the show notes down below. Go check them out. If you're feeling like you need some cotton candy in your life, maybe get an adult cotton candy from this company. I thank you again, Emily. To my audience, remember to always invest in yourself. Hey, digital entrepreneurs, thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Now, if you're looking to take your podcast to the next level, like most of these entrepreneurs have taken their business to the next level, to scale it, if you will, make sure you check out my brand new newsletter. Links are down below. It is called the Monetization Mogul Syndicate newsletter, or it could be Phil Better Stories of Monetization Moguls, or Making Moguls is what I do. So make sure you go ahead and check that out. But I want to thank you very much for listening. And as always, remember to invest in yourself.
Thanks for tuning in. Now it's time to take the next step. When you're ready to dive deeper into how to launch, grow, and monetize your podcast, Phil's got something special for you. Join him for a free webinar where he'll reveal the 3 secrets that have helped countless entrepreneurs succeed in podcasting. Click the link in the show notes to save your spot, and let's turn your podcasting dreams into reality.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.